Hey guys, I'm Daisho and I am here bringing you some magic, and today I'm going to be drafting Return to Ravnica. This is probably going to be the last Return to Ravnica draft that I upload before Gatecrash comes out at the end of the month, but I just don't have any more on my camera, and I am not in a position where I can actually record because I'm not at school where I basically record all these drafts. Anyway, I'm just going to first pick a Steam Vents because I wanted the money. I mean, it's like $10 or something like that, so I'm not going to pass that. And then I get past this pack, which has got an Annihilating Fire, a Stab Wound, and a Call of the Conclave. I think the Fire is the worst of those three by a decent margin. And then I like Stab Wound and Call of the Conclave about the same, maybe Stab Wound a little bit more. But the reason why I decided to take Call of the Conclave is because I felt like if I take the Stab Wound, then the person next to me is probably going to go into red, and then I'm gonna have to like deal with this red-black shenaniganry and not be very happy. But in my next pack, I get past a Gorehouse Chainwalker, Syncopate, Auger Spree, and a Pursuit of Flight. And I mean, the cards that I recognize most are the Izzet cards because that's really my favorite archetype to draft, and I just want to be drafting that every time basically. But I figure that the Auger Spree is just significantly better than any of the other cards in the pack, that I really can't justify taking a Pursuit of Flight or a Gorehouse Chainwalker over it, especially because they're both in red, and I can't just take a red card and then pass an Auger Spree right after I pass the Stab Wound, because then my opponent will for sure be in Rakdos, and I'll be in Izzet, and we won't have a great draft. Neither of us will. I mean, it won't be terrible, but here you try to see me justify trying to take this Gorehouse Chainwalker, I move it to the front of the pack, but I'm like, you know what, I can't do that. And I recognize that if I'm getting past the third pick, Auger Spree, then that's probably a signal that it's open. But then I get past the fourth pick, Slime Molding, and I view that as basically one of the best cards in the green-white Selesnya tokens deck. And I'm just like, well, I already have two of these amazing uncommon tokens, the Call of the Conclave and the Slime Molding, so maybe the person next to me isn't exactly in Selesnya, maybe he's in like blue-white or something like that, and he's still trying to get me into red-black. But anyway, there's a Dead Reveler in this pack, and there's a Golgari Decoy, so if I wanted to still try and go Rakdos, then I would easily be able to take the Dead Reveler and be happy here, but basically what I'm deciding is, alright, I really got to make a decision. I can't just flip-flop this whole pack, and then if I do that, then my deck will just end up terrible because I won't have enough cards. And then I figure, well, I probably took the wrong choice because I'm still seeing Gorehouse Chainwalkers. So I don't know exactly how my Rakdos deck would have turned out in this pack, but I already committed, and the Rubbleback Rhino is actually still pretty good, so I'm not unhappy about taking it over a Gorehouse. I mean, I'm happy, I'm just not, like, I'm not dying that I'm taking it. It's not torturous or anything. It's definitely still a legitimate card. I mean, the hexproof on this thing is way overrated. The fact that it's a 3/4 and can block Centaurs, I know this has probably all been said already, and you probably all know this, but the fact that it can block Centaurs just makes that card's stock go way up in my mind. The fact that it can block them and survive. The fact that green-white has a lot of tricks, and people are running, like, well, I guess Dispel still hurts you, but they can't, like, for instance, nobody can kill your guy in response to a Common Bond or something like that. And if you get a Common Bond or a Knightly Valor or even an Ethereal Armor on a Rubbleback Rhino, most decks just have a lot of trouble dealing with that and almost can't beat you. So this pack's actually pretty interesting. There's a Druids Deliverance, a Swift Justice, and an Azorius Arrester. I haven't seen that much in terms of tokening. I have the Call of Conclave, Eyes in the Skies, and the Slime Molding. But outside of that, I don't have anything, so I'm not 100% sure that I'm gonna go really deep in the token deck. Like, I don't have two Seller of Songbirds already or something like that. So I decide that the Cobble Brute tabled, so I'm just like, man, I wish I was in Izzet. But anyway, I decided to go with the aggressive card, the Azorius Arrester, so that if I do just end up with a mainly creature-based deck with some pump spells, then I can actually still have a pretty good deck, because those are the two main decks that you can build with Selesnya. You can either build the super heavy tokens deck, where all you're really trying to do is have tokens and see what they can do for you, or you can just try and populate Centaurs or giant slimes or something like that, or you can try and build the deck where you have Common Bonds and Ethereal Armors and Knightly Valors. I mean, you can play either of those cards in any of the packs, and here's really funny, I end up opening another Steam Vents. But as I was saying, you can build either of those decks, and they're both pretty good. So I decide to. I mean, ideally, I think I want to be playing the Populate deck, but that can only happen if the right cards come by. So you can't really choose. So here's an Ethereal Armor, and I move it to the front of the pack immediately. There's another Auger Spree and a Bloodfray Giant in this pack, so I would have been happy had I not been in white. But then I see this Knightly Valor, and I'm like, you know what, I think Knightly Valor is better than the first Ethereal Armor. Maybe if it was like my fourth or something like that, I would take the Ethereal Armor. But I go with the Knightly Valor, and I think I'm pretty happy about that pick. This next pick, though, really, I'm not sure if I made the right decision. I'm not sure that I made a bad decision, but there's an Ethereal Armor, a Common Bond, and a Phantom General. And those are the three main cards in this pack. And I really struggled with this one. If I had multiple Cellar Songbirds, I think I'd go with the Phantom General, because the birds really help in deciding to play the Phantom General. But I do end up picking the Phantom General anyway. But I think I would have rather had either the Ethereal Armor or the Common Bond. I wasn't really trying to go heavy on the Ethereal Armors because I just passed one, so I figured, yeah, I'm probably not going to get all of them or anything. So anyway, I could just get a random Keening Apparition out of the next pack, and then in this pack there's another Ethereal Armor, so that's the third one in this pack, and at this point I'm like, man, I kind of wish I had taken it over the other one. But again, at that point, I think I was still trying to go pretty heavy tokens. I don't really know what I was doing. Here I find a Centaur's Herald, which is much needed because as of now I only have one way to produce Centaurs, and in the tokens deck, what you really want is just as many ways as you can to produce Centaurs, and also as many populate effects as possible. But I mean, I don't know if this is just some sort of joke, but there's another Ethereal Armor, and that would have been the fourth. That's the fourth one in this pack, so I could have actually had 4 Ethereal Armors in my deck. But you guys, well, I guess I just spoiled it, but yeah, they're not going to table. So here's a Jailbreaker, a Longlegs, and a Keening Apparition, and I'm just trying to find out here if I want a 5-drop or a 2-drop, and I figure since I have the 2 Ethereal Armors, I want to get aggressive. Oh yeah, also a Chainwalker and an Injunction. I mean, that pack was just pretty stacked at this point. Here there's not much, but there's a Slum Reaper, I guess, is pretty good, and then everything else is pretty mediocre. But I'll take the Silencing Sentry, and I mean, I can run that card. It's not the end of the world. Nothing here in this pack for pretty much anyone. Somebody's going to be like, yeah, I'll take a sideboard Mizium Skin, but it's not like my deck cares about people playing Mizium Skin against me. Here there's a Stonefare Crocodile and a Judge's Familiar. I think I probably would have taken the Judge's Familiar now. I hadn't ever run that card at this point in the draft, and I haven't ever heard of somebody running that card, so I didn't even notice it. But, I mean, it's not the worst ever aggressive card. I mean, if you can actually play a 1-drop and get in with it every turn for the rest of the game, then you can get some damage. So here is a Druids Deliverance, and the reason why I was laughing and why I thought it was pretty funny was because the person to my right is infamous for making 5-color decks and using Psychic Spiral as his win condition. So that's why I thought that was pretty funny, because I actually wanted the Druids Deliverance for my deck, but I gave him the last big Psychic Spiral. So I don't really know, or I do know now, but I'm not going to tell you what kind of deck the person to my right is until the end of this pack. So anyway, here's a Wayfaring Temple, and there's also a Fencing Ace, which I wish I could have in this deck, because I mean, since there was 4 Ethereal Armors in the last pack, I'm planning to pick up at least one more. And then if I have 3 Ethereal Armors and a Fencing Ace, you guys know it can happen. Fencing Ace turn 2, turn 3 Ethereal Armor, Ethereal Armor, swing for 20. Classic. But anyway, here's a Tristani's Judgment. And I mean, Tristani's Judgment in the Populate deck is pretty hard to beat. There's almost nothing better, because once you can get a 2-for-1 out of a unconditional removal spell, just kill anything, or even in this case exile anything, which is a little better for some circumstances, like Runewing or Scavenge Guys or something like that. But anyway, Wayfaring Temple is a great card, Tristani's Judgment is a great card, so I'm pretty happy with the start of this pack. Yeah, so here in this next one, there is not so much for me. I mean, there's a Courser's Accord and a Giant Growth, but I don't think I have any Giant Growth-like pump spells. There's a ton of them in green-white, so I usually don't prioritize them until it's getting towards the end of the draft, and I actually need them. But, I mean, Giant Growth, Swift Justice, Savage Surge, or Common Bond, I'm happy to play 2 of those, even 3 of those. I guess I would lean more on Common Bond. I would be most happy to play, but either way, I don't want to have to play Transguild Promenade in any of my decks, so that's why you don't see me take it early, just to try to fix. But, I mean, I'll play it. I'm just not too happy about it. Either way, this is a little bit late to try to pick up some fixing and find a splash, because it's already midway through the pack. But anyway, here's another Knightly Valor, so that's pretty sweet. Double Knightly Valor is is always awesome. Oh yeah, I also forgot Chorus of Might. That goes along with those pump spells. But I guess Savage Surge, and Selesnya Charm. Savage Surge, Selesnya Charm, and Giant Growth and Swift Justice are a little bit different because those you want to be playing on curve and then still have another spell, but Chorus of Might is pretty much your turn. So here there's not much in the pack. I mean, I could have taken a Karazamon or a Soul Tithe, but I'm just going to take the Rootborn Defenses. I do end up playing it in my main deck. I don't have a ton of Populate. I just don't end up having that many options. The deck didn't turn out exactly as I had hoped. But anyway, I get past a Dryad Militant here, and I'm just like, that's exactly the card that I wanted. That's just really funny, because I guess I'll tell you guys now. And a Centaur Healer. Man, I don't know how that happened. But the person to my right first picked a Collective Blessing and passed the call of Conclave, Stab Wound, and Annihilating Fire, and assumed I would take the Stab Wound or the Annihilating Fire and then go into that. But I ended up going into Selesnya, so that was just really awkward because we were both playing Selesnya and we were right next to each other. It turned out well for me because I still ended up with a decent deck. It wasn't completely as good as I had hoped, and my opponent's deck next to me was also really absurdly good. But it was definitely a pretty good draft, and I think I'm pretty happy with the deck and how it came out. Unfortunately, I don't have a video for you, so sorry about that. But in the future, I will definitely get you some videos. So the last 3 picks aren't too important. But yeah, I hope you guys all enjoyed this draft, and stay tuned for the games. Have a nice day. Bye.